The most powerful intelligence agency on Earth is not the CIA. It is not the NSA. It is not any government on the planet. It is a private company. It trades on the New York Stock Exchange. And right now, it knows more about you than you know about yourself. Palantir Technologies processes more surveillance data than any government on the planet, and it answers to no one. By the end of this video, you will understand why they named their flagship surveillance software Gotham, and why that choice tells you everything about how they see themselves. The answer is darker than you think. Most people will scroll past this and never connect the dots. If you watch to the final minute, you will see a pattern hidden in plain sight, and you will never read the news the same way again. Founded with CIA money, Palantir began with a $2 million check from the intelligence community's own venture capital arm. Today, it has contracts with every major spy agency in the world, embedded in the US military, in police departments, in hospitals, in banks. Nobody voted for this. Nobody approved this. Nobody can stop it. Today, we pull back the curtain fully on the largest silent takeover in modern history. The birth of Gotham. But this story does not start in a government bunker. It starts with a wizard. In 2003, J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings was the biggest film franchise on the planet, and a Stanford computer science dropout named Peter Thiel, fresh off selling PayPal to eBay for $1.5 billion, was obsessed with it, not as entertainment, as a blueprint. In Tolkien's world, the Palantiri were ancient seeing stones, magical objects that allowed their holders to see anything, anywhere, at any time. Sauron, the Dark Lord, used one to surveil and manipulate the entire world. Thiel named his company after them, not after the heroes, after the stones themselves. Data is the new power. In 2004, Palantir Technologies was founded in Palo Alto, California. Peter Thiel contributed his own capital, but the critical seed funding, the first $2 million that made it real, came from In-Q-Tel. In-Q-Tel is the CIA's venture capital arm. The intelligence community did not just back Palantir, they helped create it. From day one, the CIA was a customer, a funder, and a silent architect of what Palantir would become, a private company, born from spy money, built to see everything, and nobody discussed it publicly for almost a decade. What they built in secret makes the founding look ordinary. What Palantir sees, what I am about to tell you sounds like a conspiracy thriller, but every word is documented in public contracts and congressional testimony. Palantir has two core products. The first is called Gotham. Gotham is designed for governments and intelligence agencies. It takes data from every imaginable source. Financial transactions, phone metadata, email intercepts, facial recognition databases, travel records, social media activity, and fuses them into a single searchable interface. An analyst in Washington can pull up a name and see that person's entire life, mapped and connected in seconds. The second product is called Foundry. It does the same for corporations, mapping supply chains, tracking operations, and the part they do not advertise, monitoring employee behavior at a scale most people do not realize is legal. Companies using Foundry include some of the most powerful names in the world: Airbus, Ferrari, Merck, and the NHS in the United Kingdom. If you have ever had blood drawn in a British hospital, your data has moved through Palantir systems. If you want to keep pulling on this thread, hit like and subscribe, because what comes next goes even deeper. You genuinely need to see where this ends up. But here is the question nobody is asking yet. Who authorized all of this? Keep watching, because the answer is the most disturbing part of the whole story. The CIA connection. After September 11, 2001, the United States intelligence community had a catastrophic problem. Not a lack of information, but a flood of it. The NSA was collecting millions of communications daily. The CIA had field reports from dozens of countries. The FBI had domestic surveillance files, but none of these systems talked to each other. The 9/11 Commission found that the government had enough information to potentially prevent the attacks. They simply could not connect the dots fast enough, because the dots lived in 17 different databases that could not communicate. Palantir solved that problem. 1. CIA, covert intelligence and global operations. 2. NSA, communications intercepts worldwide. 3. FBI, domestic surveillance and criminal records. 4. DHS, border, travel and threat tracking. 5. Special Operations Command, battlefield targeting. All of them feeding into one interface, searchable by one analyst. The individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. By 2010, the US military had deployed Palantir analysts the same way it deployed soldiers, directly into operational theaters. The company was no longer a contractor. It was infrastructure. Here is where it gets darker. What happens when the same company builds the surveillance architecture for democracies and then starts selling that same infrastructure to governments around the world? That question has an answer, and you will not like it. Hunting humans. In 2009, something remarkable started happening in Afghanistan. IED attacks, improvised explosive devices, the roadside bombs killing American soldiers at a rate of dozens per month, began to drop. Not because of more troops on the ground, not because of better armor, because of pattern recognition. Palantir's Gotham system was mapping insurgent networks in real time, cross-referencing phone records, informant reports, market activity, and previous attack locations to predict where the next bomb would be planted before it was placed. Congressional testimony from 2010 cited Palantir as directly responsible for saving hundreds of American lives in Afghanistan. The results were documented and extraordinary, but here is what rarely gets discussed. The same system used to protect US soldiers was also used to build targeting packages for drone strikes. Human beings identified as threats by an algorithm added to a kill list, with Palantir software as part of that chain of decisions. Algorithm decides who dies. Peter Thiel has spoken about this openly. He believes technology makes warfare more precise, more ethical. The question nobody seems to ask back is, who checks the algorithm? Who validates the data? Who is accountable when the system is wrong? That question, accountability, is about to become the center of everything. What comes next is where it truly gets unsettling. Predicting crime. Now forget the battlefield. Bring it home, because Palantir did not stay in war zones. In 2012, the city of New Orleans partnered with Palantir to build a predictive policing program. The arrangement was kept secret from the public, from city council members, and even from the police department's own leadership. For 6 years, New Orleans police used an AI system to flag citizens as potential criminals before they committed any crime, without those citizens ever knowing it existed. The program was built on social network analysis, mapping who you know, where you have been, what you have done, who your family members are, and generating a threat score, a number that determined how much police attention you would receive. Your threat score could follow you for years before you even knew it existed. The LAPD, the NYPD, and the Chicago police used similar technology. Palantir was not just selling a product. It was fundamentally reshaping the relationship between citizens and the state in secret, city by city. The price of freedom is eternal vigilance. In 2018, investigative journalists from The Verge exposed the New Orleans program. Public outcry ended the contract, but the technology had already spread to dozens of departments. The data still existed. The connections had already been mapped. And here is what kept me up at night. New Orleans was the one we found out about. How many programs are still running right now that have never been exposed? Corporate control. What I am about to tell you sounds impossible, but it is documented in public filings and leaked contracts. Palantir's Foundry platform does not just serve governments. By 2021, it was deployed inside some of the most powerful corporations on Earth. Your bank, your employer. JP Morgan Chase uses Palantir to monitor financial flows and detect fraud. The Bank of England uses it for regulatory analysis. Airbus uses it to manage its global supply chain. The British NHS signed a contract giving Palantir access to the health data of 56 million people. 56 million. One company. No public debate. When your health records, your bank records, and your employer's systems all run on the same platform, and that platform belongs to a private company funded by intelligence agencies. What does that actually mean for your privacy? The answer is, we do not fully know, because Palantir's data governance policies are proprietary. What they do with the data they process, who they share inferences with, what models they build. That information is classified as a trade secret. This is the architecture of something that does not have a clean name yet. Not quite a monopoly, not quite a surveillance state. Something newer and stranger than both. And when you understand what Peter Thiel actually believes about democracy, which we are about to get to, the whole picture snaps into horrifying focus. The global web. Here is where the story takes a dark turn, because Palantir went global, and the pattern it followed tells you exactly what it is. By 2020, Palantir had government contracts on every inhabited continent. The United Kingdom used it to manage COVID-19 data, vaccination records, hospitalization rates, resource allocation. A private American company, partially funded by the CIA, ran the data infrastructure for the British government's pandemic response. In 2022, as Russia invaded Ukraine, Palantir deployed its engineers directly to the battlefield. CEO Alex Karp flew to Kiev. The company provided targeting intelligence and battlefield analytics to the Ukrainian military. Karp called it a moral obligation. One company, unelected and unaccountable, choosing which side of a war to support. And here is the apparent contradiction that should stop you cold. Palantir claims to be the defender of Western democracy. Its stated mission is protecting free societies from authoritarian threats. But no democratic oversight exists over how it chooses its clients, which governments it empowers, or what data it keeps. Power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Germany, Finland, Israel, Australia, all using Palantir. It has become the connective tissue of Western institutional power. The man who built all of this wrote something in 2009 that explains the entire philosophy. It is public record, and almost nobody has connected it to the company he built. That is next. No one watching. What I am about to tell you is not a secret. It is public. Peter Thiel wrote it, and yet somehow almost nobody has connected it to the company he built. In 2009, Peter Thiel wrote an essay for the Cato Institute in which he stated directly, "I no longer believe that freedom and democracy are compatible." He argued that mass suffrage, the right of everyone to vote, had made it impossible to protect economic freedom. He has never retracted these words. The man who believes democracy is incompatible with freedom built the world's most powerful surveillance infrastructure. Alex Karp, Palantir's CEO, has publicly argued that democratic institutions are too slow and too constrained to deal with modern threats. That effective action sometimes requires operating outside democratic oversight. In interviews, he has compared Palantir's mission to that of a philosopher king, the Platonic ideal of a wise ruler who leads not by consent, but by superior knowledge. They are not hiding what they believe. They are telling you exactly what they plan to do. Palantir is not subject to freedom of information requests. It cannot be compelled by Congress to reveal its methods. It answers to its board and its shareholders, primarily Peter Thiel, and there is no law that prevents this. None. Which is precisely why the next segment is the most important in this entire video, because it reveals what all of this is actually building toward. The silent takeover. And now we get to the part that changes everything. The genius of Palantir's strategy is not surveillance. Surveillance is just the product. The real strategy is dependency. Here is how it works. Palantir does not try to overthrow governments. It makes itself so essential that governments cannot function without it. Once your military intelligence architecture runs on Palantir, once your police departments, hospitals, banks, and border agencies all flow data through its systems, you cannot turn it off without your institutions collapsing. They do not need to own the government. They only need the government to be unable to operate without them. In 2020, Palantir went public on the New York Stock Exchange. It now holds over $2.5 billion in US government contracts alone, and its own investor documents describe a strategy not of competing for individual contracts, but of becoming the operating system of Western institutional power itself. Not elected, not accountable, but potentially more powerful than any elected government on Earth. Is this the most dangerous company alive, or the most necessary one? Comment dangerous or necessary below. I want to know exactly where this community stands on this. And if this disturbs you the way it disturbs me, share this video with as many people as you possibly can. This is the kind of truth that disappears when not enough eyes are watching it. There is one question left unanswered, the one from the very beginning. What does Gotham really mean? The answer is in the final segment, and it reframes everything you just heard. Who watches them? Now we answer the question. In Gotham City, the fictional home of Batman, there is a vigilante who surveils an entire population to protect them. He answers to no law. He operates outside democratic oversight. He decides, alone, who is a threat and who is not. He believes his superior knowledge justifies operating above accountability. Palantir named their government surveillance platform after that city, not accidentally, not as a pop culture reference, as a philosophical statement. They see themselves as Batman, watching everything, protecting, answering to nobody. And here is the resolution to everything told in this video. Palantir's plan to own everything is not a conspiracy theory. It is a business model, stated in investor documents, funded by intelligence agencies, and executed through dependency. It does not need to seize power through a coup. It only needs to be the last system standing when everything else is wired through it. The most dangerous takeovers are the ones nobody votes against. What do you do with this information? That depends on whether you believe any of this is fixable. At minimum, you now see it. You know the name of the company that knows everything about you, who founded it, who funded it, and what they believe about democracy. The price of apathy towards public affairs is to be ruled by evil men. The question is not whether Palantir is watching. It is. The question is whether anyone is watching Palantir. If you made it this far, truly made it this far, you already understand something most people will never connect. Palantir named their system Gotham because they see themselves as the Dark Guardian, unelected, unaccountable, but in their own minds, necessary. That framing is the most important thing to understand about them. They are not hiding. They are operating in plain sight, betting that nobody will care enough to look. One company, all data, no oversight. And the open question of our generation is whether democratic institutions have the will and the legal tools to govern it before it becomes ungovernable. The largest silent takeover in history does not need weapons. It only needs to be indispensable. Peter Thiel chose the seeing stones of the Dark Lord as his symbol. He chose the surveillance city of a vigilante who answers to no one as his product name. He has told us explicitly what he believes about democracy. The only thing remaining is whether we are paying attention. If you made it to this final minute, comment seeing stone below. That is how we know who actually saw the whole picture. Not just the data, not just the company, the pattern underneath it all. The truth is stranger than anything you could make up. If this shook something loose in your head, hit subscribe. Next time, the story gets even more unsettling.